Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will talk about antimicrobial agent. So I am Zahur Islam, and today is my third lecture regarding antibiotic. So today we will discuss about the antimicrobial agents, that how the different type of antibiotic can reach to its target site to show their pharmacological activity. These are the general mode of action or mechanism of action through which the antibiotic shows different type of activity. So these are the mechanism of action or mode of action, that how the drug can reach to its target site to show their pharmacological activity. So before starting, these are the mechanisms of different antibiotics and different moods. Like there are some antibiotic which are responsible to inhibit the bacterial proteins inside the body of that particular pathogens. So here in first case we will discuss that how the bacterial protein will be inhibit, or these antibiotic block the protein synthesis inside the bacteria, because these proteins, these are the special food. So our main target is how to block these protein synthesis in the body of that specific pathogens. The second one is by inhibiting the bacterial cell wall synthesis. There are some antibiotic which have the tendency, which have the capability to block the bacterial cell walls, because whenever bacteria is trying to make cell wall around himself, so it become dangerous. There may be chances of infections. The main target is here, the main target is, let's suppose we are going to use different type of antibiotic against infection. So as we can say that there is a competition between microorganisms and antibiotic. Now if the microorganism become dominant over antibiotic, so it means the condition will become worst. And let's suppose we can say if these antibiotics, let's suppose if these antibiotics become dominant over these microorganisms, so it means the chances of infections will be minimized. So simply we can say there will be a type of competition between pathogens and antibiotic. Now in third case, as it is shown here, look at here. This is what this is. There are some antibiotic which have the tendency to inhibit the DNA synthesis, because DNA is the living things, living matters, and there are definitely the pathogens. Due to the presence of DNA, they have the capability to produce certain type of proteins. So our main target is to block the DNA, inhibiting the DNA synthesis, or we can inhibit the RNA synthesis, or it may change alterations in the membrane permeability, how to change the membrane permeability, then the microorganisms, so it become unable to penetrate inside the body. Interference with cellular metabolism, this is another case. So there are different type of antibiotics which have different mode of actions. Next, now look at here, this is simple the classification of antibacterial agents, and this is the list of different type of antibiotic, and different antibiotics have different mode of action, like beta-lactam antibacterial agent or beta-lactam antibiotic, then penicillin, and then cephalosporin, sulfonamides, tetracycline, fluoroquinolone, macrolides, monobactams, carbapenems, and aminoglycosides. This is the general classification of antibacterial agents. Now here in this case we will discuss about the beta-lactam LACTAM antibacterials, and its mode of action, or you can say mechanism of action, how these drugs can act upon on the peptidoglycan layer of the bacterial cell wall, and it will cause the leakage of intercellular content to microorganism and cause destructions. So the best example, the classical example of beta lactam antibacterial is penicillin. In simple words, we can say penicillin is basically cell wall synthesis inhibitors. So this penicillin is responsible to block what the cell wall of the bacterial cells. As in previous lecture, we have talked about that why these antibiotic doesn't destroy the human cells, but they can target the microorganisms. So this is the reasons that most of the antibiotic, they are extracted from different sources like plant source, animal source, microorganisms. So I mean that these antibiotic can be extracted from different type of microorganisms. So then we can kill that microorganisms with the help of these antibiotics. So we can say, for example, a patient, let's suppose a patient who is suffering from bacterial disease. So then definitely we will use antibacterial agent. Let's suppose if the infection is viral, then we can use antiviral disease. If the infection is fungal, then we can use antifungal disease. So this is the same case as we can like chemotherapy, the treatment of a disease with the help of drugs. So penicillin is the classical example of beta lactam antibacterial agent, and these are known as beta lactam antibiotic. Why it is known as beta lactam antibiotic? Due to the presence of beta lactam ring and their molecular structure. And this beta lactam, why these are called beta lactam antibiotic? And these antibiotic, there is, if we can draw the molecular structure of these antibiotics, so there must be the involvement of, there must be present the beta lactam ring in their molecular structure. That's why we can say, simply we can say that beta lactam antibiotic, why it is called beta lactam? Due to the presence of beta lactam ring which is present in their structure. Now beta lactam antibiotic, there are some problems nowadays. This is very common that most of the drug, they are resistant. Like so here in this case, beta lactam antibiotic resistance may develop due to beta lactamase enzymes. And these beta lactamase enzymes are produced by some bacteria which can destroy the beta lactam ring and their molecular structure. So we can say that this resistance may be developed due to beta lactamase enzymes. And actually these enzymes, these are the byproducts. These enzymes, they are produced by some bacteria which can destroy the beta lactam ring and their molecular structure. After that, we will talk about the beta lactam antibacterials, penicillin. That some of the initial penicillin were narrow spectrum gram positive, and however some recent derivatives are broad spectrum effective and widely used antibacterial agents. So this is very clear that some drugs, they are bacteriostatic while some are bactericidals. So bacteriostatic drugs, they can only inhibit the growth of microorganisms. They cannot destroy the spores of the microorganism. So it is not necessary. Here in this case, the beta lactam antibacterial penicillins. So they have, there are some drugs, some of the initial penicillins, they were narrow spectrum. Narrow spectrum mean they are active against gram. They have strong activity against gram positive. While other agents, other derivatives, they have broad spectrum activity, so they are very effective in wide using bacterial agents. This drug is used in the treatment of respiratory infection like tonsillitis, pneumonia, sexually transmitted disease, gonorrhea, syphilis, and meningitis. Prophylactic use before surgery and dental procedure. So this is very simple, as I have mentioned here. Look at here. Now I'm going to classify the penicillins on the basis of source, routes of administration, spectrum of activity, resistance to enzyme, and resistance to acid. This is the general classification of penicillin on the basis of sources, that from where these drugs can be extracted. Its natural sources, penicillin G and penicillin V. This is a natural source, while in semi-synthetic source these drugs are mentioned. Look at here. So this is simple, you can say this is oxacillins, cloxacillin, cloxacillins, and methicillin, napcillin, ampicillin, amoxicillin, carbenicillin, and piperacillins. While the routes of administration, how these drugs can be administered, so there are two. One is oral route and the second one is parenteral. So orally, ampicillin can be given to the patient orally, and you can say amoxicillin, penicillin V, oxacillin, cloxacillin, and decloxacillin. So after that, I will explain that and the different how these drugs they are available and and different doses. So inshallah I will explain it in the next lecture. Now here routes of administration is oral and parenteral. And parenteral there is penicillin G, methicillin, napcillin, carbenicillin, piperacillin, anticarcillins. Now look at here the spectrum of activities. Now these antibiotics can be classified on the basis of spectrum of activity, that which one of the following is narrow spectrum, and some of them they are broad spectrum. Now look at this example. Methicillin is basically narrow spectrum antibiotic, so it means they are active against gram-positive bacteria, while oxacillin, napcillins, and decloxacillins, these are the names, these are the generic names which I have mentioned here in this presentations. While in broad spectrum antibiotic, the ampicillins, you can say ampicillin and amoxicillins. So these are broad spectrum activities, broad spectrum antibiotics. So it means they have a strong penetrating power. They can kill a wide range of microorganisms. While in intermediate spectrums, penicillin G and penicillin V, these are the classical examples. As we've discussed in routes of administrations, this point should be mentioned that this point should be noted that penicillin V they are available in oral form, while penicillin G it can be administered parenterally, mean in the form of injections. So penicillin G, so this is mean penicillin. There are two groups. You can say penicillin V and G. So V is available in oral form and G as in parenteral form. Penicillin G and V, they are also come under the category of intermediate spectrums, mean their activity is lying between narrow and broad spectrum antibiotic. While in extended spectrums, carbenicillin, ticarcillin, piperacillins, and meslocillins. Another thing is the resistance to enzyme. Now, what are the drugs which show resistance to certain enzyme? Like the drug which show resistance to beta-lactamases. What are the name of these drugs which show resistance to the beta-lactamases? These are methicillin, napcillin, oxacillin, cloxacillin, and decloxacillins. While the non-resistance to beta-lactamases, those drugs which doesn't show any resistance to beta-lactamases. So these are penicillin G, penicillin B, ampicillin, amoxicillin, and carbenicillins. And case number 5, those drugs which show resistance to the acid. Now, what are the drugs which are stables, which can show stability in the presence of acid? So penicillin V, this is stable in acidic environment, as well as ampicillin, amoxicillin, oxacillin, cloxacillin, and decloxacillins. While the acid unstable, those drugs which are not stable in acidic environment, that is penicillin G. So it means that penicillin G at this drug, this is not stable in acidic environment. Like methicillin, napcillins, and carbenicillin. So there are many drugs which are used in the treatment of variety of infections. And